Hello, fabulous listeners. Thanks for tuning in to Old Bodies Outside. This is your host, Brian Peterson. This episode's guest is performance coach Shea Fairbanks. He coaches people on how to change their relationship with alcohol, improve their bodies holistically, and create new mindsets and habits that help them move towards an optimal lifestyle. Shea, it's great to have you on Old Bodies Outside.
Thank you. Looking forward to this.
Yeah. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. We were talking before recording. You're tuning in from Calgary. I believe you're the second Canadian guest to be on here, so this is fantastic. But why don't we jump into our conversation? I wanted to hear, you got Shea Fairbanks Coaching Services, and there's a lot that you do, and your Instagram posts are quite enticing. And I wanted to hear a little bit of background about what you offer with your coaching services. How are you out there helping people? How are you out there helping people solve problems in their life?
Yeah, so it kind of starts for myself going back to my own personal struggle, my own personal journey with alcohol. And I can touch on the childhood stuff and all the reasons why I essentially found alcohol as a tool or a method of escape. But I essentially chose to get sober. It'll be 3 years in September here. And I was doing all the things in my life. I had a great job. I had a great relationship. I was making good money. I was working out 6 days a week. I was, I had a nice vehicle. I had this and that and all the things that you would think would make someone materially happy. And I was not happy at all. And I noticed that I was doing all the work, but my performance, my output, and my potential or my performance at work, in my relationships, in my financial health, etc., was just not very strong because I was spending all of my time outside of those things drinking alcohol. So I'd go out on the golf course with the guys and have many drinks and that's like my golf game, like a very small thing that's insignificant, but it shows in other areas of my performance. So when my performance is bad on the golf course, you try and show up to work the next day and my work performance would suck and I'd be unfocused and lazy and unmotivated to do the work that I need to do. Carry that off into my relationship with my partner at the time, and that would cause fights and behavior that is not conducive to a healthy relationship. Try and go to the gym. Well, when you show up to the gym and you're hungover or you have alcohol in your system and you're unable to work out the way you want to work out, and you're not going to get the same muscular or performance and gains from whatever you're doing. So I just started noticing that I was doing all these things, but I wasn't getting positive results, or at least not the positive results that I wanted. And so I decided, after a day of heavy solo drinking on a golf course, to stop drinking fully the next day, and went 100% in the opposite direction. And I started noticing pretty much right away that my performance in all of those areas started to improve. I started showing up earlier at work and working harder, more productive, more focused. And I worked in sales at the time, corporate sales, and I started becoming extremely successful as a salesman and being able to engage with clients more effectively and understand what their pains are and know all that stuff. And then my relationships started to improve and my finances and all of those things. And then I was still working out all the time and started noticing like, oh, I'm actually getting stronger. Oh, I'm actually building muscle. Oh, I can now run, and I can actually like run, not just like 5K. And I just started noticing just these little things. And it took probably about the first 30 to 60 days where it was kind of this like roller coaster of like solving where I was and where I was heading. And once I started seeing those gains, it all kind of started moving. And it was addicting in its own way of like seeing how good my life became. It was positively addicting and started, that was kind of the main thing. It started really showing me, okay, here is something. And then I did that for a while. Pandemic happened. I ended up losing my job and I started working as a human performance coach. And my main focus was using breath work and using functional training, functional bodybuilding, coming from a background of CrossFit. And so I was kind of doing that for a while. And I had a conversation, I was telling you earlier, I had a conversation with my business coach and he said, why don't you tie in the sobriety piece? That's such a big piece for yourself in how you achieved high performance in your life. And it was when I started combining all the things together. So it's all the avenues of your physical performance, so your nutrition and hydration and working out and I guess sleep is involved in that, but the sleep also is involved in, say, your emotional or your spiritual performance as well. And then, you know, you look at relational or financial or your career performance, and all of those things are all interconnected. So that was kind of the backstory of how it happened. So I don't know if I quite remember the question, but I can, if you ask it again, I can tie it back together.
Yeah, well, I was just kind of looking to lay some foundation for moving forward with the conversation. But one of the things that really drew me in your explanation there and kind of talking about what led you to your coaching services was, I'm a person that loves working out. I always have. And I'm a person that I try to stick to it just about every day of the week. But I could see a mental trap in which if I'm working out, I think that, well, I'm healthy all around. And that could be even if like I am abusing alcohol, using it daily. I don't drink. And so using alcohol daily, that would be something that like, I think that if I were working out, I would think like, oh, well, that like I'm healthy, I'm good to go. Like I can still have, you know, whatever for amount of alcohol per day. And so when you were abusing alcohol, were you still working out very regularly?
Yeah. So I was still in the gym 6 days a week, but where it kind of switched for me, I wasn't gaining muscle. Like I hit a plateau and I would change my training style or change little things where you'd think that normally if you're, and I've done it since being sober, the body will get used to what you're doing consistently if you keep doing the same thing. So if you change it after 6 to 8 weeks and you're doing functional training with focus on like lower body eccentric movement stuff, you're going to find yourself your lower body is going to get stronger to a point, and then you're going to find a plateau where the body's going to start to get used to it unless you change it and keep forcing the body to adapt. I was doing all the things similar to that, forcing the body to adapt, but I wasn't gaining any muscle. I wasn't gaining any weight. And I was kind of just staying the same. And I was wondering like, what is going on? And I wear a Garmin, I track all the calories and stuff, but I wasn't taking into account the calories I was taking and getting from alcohol. And because it would fill me up in my stomach, but they're essentially like empty calories, it would fill my stomach up, but I wouldn't be getting the protein and the other stuff that I really needed. So I'd feel full and like, oh, well, I got 3,000 calories today. 3,000 calories in beer is very different than 3,000 calories in Whole Foods. And so I wasn't seeing the progression that I wanted in my body and my physical health. And that was kind of the big change and kind of like a little click moment in my brain. Like, oh, I have to like eliminate that and maximize that. When I started like really dialing in, eating clean and fixing my nutrition and my diet, as well as doing the working out without the alcohol, everything was like, I went from, I want to say I was probably 160, maybe 162 at most when I was drinking. And I'm now I'm at 176.
Nice.
It's been 3 years, and there's obviously some ups and downs. I ran an ultra a few weeks ago and I probably lost about 5 pounds, but just like little dips, but you inch your way back up. So.
Yeah, and so when I was looking at your website, I saw that I think do you offer I think you offered a 180-day kind of program. Is that correct? Did I get the 180 days correct?
Yeah, so it's a 180-day program, 6-month program. I've kind of changed it a little bit. I do have a 3-month offering, and I also have a 12-month offering. But kind of the main bread and butter is a 6-month commitment. I find getting to that 6-month mark for a lot of people and getting sober is really challenging. And once you get there, I find, at least for myself and with a lot of the clients that I have worked with, when we get to the 6-month mark in their sobriety, that 180 days of sobriety, it really starts to become a lifestyle change. You really start to change your relationship with alcohol, and it just doesn't show up as much. You're less tempted by the situations that arise. You're less tempted by, say, an argument with your spouse or something at work, and you're less tempted to reach for alcohol at that point because you've kind of already created and rewired your brain with some new mindsets and new habits and new skills to combat that. And you probably have some new hobbies, some passions, and things you enjoy doing that have kind of filled the space or the void that the alcohol or the drinking used to have.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned rewiring the brain, and that's something that I focus on a lot when I'm just reflecting and evaluating myself is the plasticity of the brain and neural makeup. The neural makeup can change with, making sure that I'm recognizing negative thought behaviors, negative thought patterns, and using more positive thought patterns. I can change my neural makeup by imagining very strong experiences, kind of visualizations. I got to imagine that kind of, is that what plays into some of the meditation practice that you do use?
Absolutely. So I use kind of a combination, either depending on where the client's at and their level of expertise when it comes to using breath work or breathing exercises. So I use performance breath work, and I was certified in that and kind of mentored through Laird Hamilton, big wave surfer. And
nice.
And so that was, being able to be mentored by a guy that's a pioneer at what he does in pretty much everything was fantastic. And then being able to use those skills to share with my clients. And it's, I guess, less in a way of the breathwork space right now. And it's a little side topic for myself is a very loud space. It's kind of like yoga 30 years ago. There's just this and that. There's all these different trending. There's all the somatic breath work. And it's not to say that it's bad. It's just, it's a different type. It's like hot yoga and yin yoga. It's just a different style of breath work. And so the benefit I find for a lot of my clients is by using performance breathing, especially because it's all about enhancing their performance. And I find a lot of people don't like the word performance because I think they naturally bring their mind to, well, I'm not an Olympic athlete, or I'm not a professional athlete, or I'm not an elite, etc. You put any job on it, and you don't really have to be elite to want high performance in your life. I think most people should want to perform at their absolute highest in every area of their life. So I really love using breath work, and if it's meditation, it might be a visualization practice. It might be meditation. It might be breathing exercises where we're exploring hypoxia, which is, altitude training, or apnea, which would be a breath hold. We're exploring many different areas of breathing and breathing mechanics. And it's in that process that I find a lot of the I almost want to say stuck energy within the body starts to come up, especially around stuff from your childhood might come up, or the stuff from an argument you had with your spouse from 3 weeks ago and it's still stuck in here and you have some anger that you need to release. It might come up through the breath work. And in going through the breath work together in a safe environment with myself, it's just one-on-one. By going through in that environment, you can release whatever is maybe that stuck energy. And then that's a great way to analyze and kind of clear the mind, or clear that mindset. And then kind of the rest of that session, if there is a big thing like that, is all about analyzing why it is that happened, and then rewiring those patterns and creating new mindsets, new skills, new habits that are going to help positively reinforce those new behaviors.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. And that rewiring, it's so powerful. And I wonder how many people are actually aware that the brain can do that, when you're intentional and trying to make that happen. And I feel like a lot of people actually are not aware of that. And so the question I'm always thinking in my head is, how do we help people become aware that they're kind of, their brains, have that plastic type of character to them, and, the neural pathways can change?
Oh man, that's a good question. I find it, for myself, it probably comes down to when I share with someone, whether it's a client or not, whether it's just someone I'm having a conversation with, it's important to know that growth is possible. Like, you don't stop learning at age 10. Like, you can be 50 and say, you know what, I've been an electrician for 30 years, but I'm done, and I'm going to go do something totally different. And you're able to go back to school, and that growth clearly shows that you could be an electrician one day and be a baker the next day. Now, what's an electrician and baker have in common? Maybe the temperatures of the oven stuff, but outside of that, it might be a rewiring, a reworking, a relearning of, and not even just a relearning, like an absolute new learning experience. And so I just find that if someone is wondering whether or not they are capable of rewiring their brain, the old behavior patterns, take it from someone that didn't think any of that stuff was possible, and I've been able to rewire my entire brain, I feel, from where I was even 5 years ago to where I'm at today. So
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. In terms of helping people change their relationship with alcohol, there's a lot of programs out there. There's some famous ones like AA. Nothing wrong with those. Those are fantastic. But what makes your program kind of unique and, kind of inviting for maybe people that don't feel like they are quite getting the change that they need out of those traditional programs?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question. It actually came up yesterday in a bunch of conversations I was having, where, and it's not to say AA is bad, because I've gone to AA myself. I have friends that go to AA and they swear by it. And if that works for them, fantastic. I'm happy there's a resource out there like that does work for so many people, because it does work. It didn't necessarily work for myself. It's not to say that AA is the only way, that coaching is the only way, that therapy or treatment center is the only way. It's just, I'm just here to show that there is also an alternative option, that those traditional sources and those traditional tools are available, and they can do wonders for someone. The way the thing I like most about the coaching side, and what I didn't like myself about AA and treatment centers, were AA and treatment centers are all in a group. And I really don't want to share my really deep, dark personal stuff about all of that stuff in front of, say, 5 people or 15 people or 20 or 40 or whoever. Some of these AA events, I've gone to one it was at a church, and there was probably 60 people there. I don't want to stand up and speak in front of 60 people, usually on my best day, but definitely not on a day when I now have to talk about, some of the darkest days of my life. And so doing it in that way. So then the other side would be therapy. Well, therapy is still one-on-one, but I find a lot of therapy, especially in the therapy that I've gone to, I do find it has an emphasis on kind of the negative side of drinking, and the negative side of, how are you going to prepare yourself for when you relapse, and how are you going, do you prepare yourself to when you call yourself an alcoholic and stuff like that. I don't use those words. I don't use the word alcoholic myself. I think our language is really important especially to our mindsets, and what we tell ourselves is being really mindful of the language that we use. So when I don't use the word alcoholic, I say to myself, I just don't have, there's no space in my life for alcohol. I'm just not a drinker. I just don't drink. There's legitimately no possible space where I can fit a beer in, because the consequences of what that beer is going to negatively impact so many other areas of my life. So there's just no space for that. And then I don't look at the word relapse either. I find therapy, treatment, AA talk about being an alcoholic, admitting an alcoholic. And I find it just creates the victimhood to the substance, similar to the relapses, repeating that victimhood to the substance, giving power to the substance. And instead of the relapse, I like to use it's just purely a data point. It shows me where I was at and what I was feeling in that moment. And there's nothing negative about it. You can use it as a learning outcome or a learning experience. Say, this is what I was feeling in that moment. This is what I was going through. And this is why I chose what I chose to do. But it's just a data point. You just it's any data point on a graph. You're like, okay, I was here. Well, now I'm here. So it's just, I find within the world of coaching, and there's quite a few, sobriety coaches out there doing similar things. I find it, because it's one-on-one, and for the most part, most of the people that are doing it are other people that have kind of gone through the same journey that someone's looking to go through themselves. And so you're getting firsthand experience from someone that has already gone through it themselves. And you're getting that one-on-one attention. So it's intimate, it's private. No one else is, listening in. You're not sharing with anyone else. You're sharing with one person. I like to also, as we mentioned, is include things like breath work and nutrition and movement and changing your physiological state and really trying different things. And all of those things impact your overall potential or your overall performance. And so doing a different approach to, say, the traditional approaches just feels like it's an alternative solution that is out there if people are interested in it.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. That was a really great explanation.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And I liked that, you are really intentional about the words you use too, and the way that you describe yourself, the way you think about yourself. I think that has a lot more power to it than probably people think. And that can also be very empowering, or it can also cause, a negative behavior too down the line. And so I think that's something that's great that you're intentional about as well. In terms of your daily habits, what types of daily habits do you implement for just optimizing your performance?
Yeah, so that's something I've really worked on in the last few years for sure. I've really drilled in, and I find for myself a very structured morning and evening routine. And I use the structure as a way to help me stay accountable to myself. It helps me, and by knowing that it's structured, that there's this thing, then that, then that, then that, then that. Each of these things, having them on there and being really intentional and mindful about it, allows me to create that structure that then sets up the success during the rest of my workday. And it opens up, obviously there is some play for life. It's not fully structured the whole day. There's play in there for life and things that come up and et cetera. But I think the structure helps hold me accountable to myself and what my true goals and my essence are in terms of alcohol and sobriety. And so keeping that structure. So kind of the main ones for myself, I wake up and I meditate first thing in the morning. That's my main thing. And it's just in silence. I actually use earplugs I do it in bed, but I sit up in bed, I put earplugs in, and it just forces me then to follow my breath inward. So it's kind of a little bit, it's a meditation. It could be on certain days, the replacement of the breath work at the same time that I end up doing after a little bit later in the morning routine. I throw in some conscious present breath work, but meditation first, then I hydrate, and I make sure I really emphasize my hydration early in the morning by getting a lot of salt. So I drink, my favorite brand of electrolytes is Element, LMNT. So I take that first thing in the morning, one stick of that, and large glass of water, and I start my day with electrolytes, making sure that my body is able to retain the rest of the water I drink throughout the day, and running at its optimal highest first thing in the morning. And I wake up early, so this is all kind of happening between the hours of 5 and 6 a.m. So I'm up at 5, I'm meditating for 10 to 15, sometimes 20 minutes, depending on how I feel. There's obviously a day where you're able to follow the breath and lock right in and you're good to go. And, you're 7, 8 minutes in a meditation, you feel amazing. There's other days where the mind is all over the place and you spend 15 minutes trying to quiet it. So I do have a little bit of a buffer on how long that meditation is going to last. I hydrate, I get into a cold shower, and that's just like, it's a non-negotiable. It's the worst thing I do in my entire day. And that all of these things, because they're so structured, are little check mark wins that I'm allowed to check off and have these little wins, stack these wins throughout the rest of my day, so that by the end of the day, I know that I've stacked all these wins. So meditation, hydration, cold shower, and then I usually do it's about 8 minutes of breath work, and it's a self-guided one that I've kind of been using for quite a while. There's a box breathing technique in there. There's a triangle breathing technique. There's a couple of what I call a power breath, similar to what Wim Hof does, but it's just a very short inhale hold on the both of them. I practice gratitude on the second breath hold when I'm ultra present in the body and in the mind. Practice gratitude there. Finish the breath work. Do a little gratitude journaling, and that usually, all of that takes me, and some kind of light stretching usually takes me to about 6 a.m. And I have a few clients that are Eastern Standard Time, and I get to them at 6 a.m. and start my day bright and early with a couple of clients doing some breath work and getting into some sessions early. So that's usually at least my Monday to Friday. Saturdays and Sundays are a little maybe a little bit lazier if I'm feeling like I need to. If I feel like I need to boost my sleep, I'll get extra sleep on the weekends.
Nice. Well, I like that you're meeting with clients so early at 6 a.m. and starting off their day, helping them. I'm a big fan of, I usually wake up at 5 a.m. just about every day. And I like to kick it off with working out. But I need to try, I've been thinking of ways to try to get some home ice baths going. I think like the cold shower is just the way to do it. I think during the wintertime, it's pretty easy to keep the ice bath going outside. During the summertime, it's a little bit harder. Because that's been recommended to me. Well, just keep an ice bath outside. And it's like, well, that works for half the year, maybe. Yeah. But yeah, the cold shower thing, like I love that idea. I've not given that a shot. So I'll try that one out. I like, getting up and doing some meditating, focus on the mind first. I think that's a great way to start the day. And I think those are really wonderful habits to have. Thanks for sharing those. That was really cool. And that's great. Like I said, the start of that, I think it's really great that you are connecting with your clients at 6 a.m. and helping them get their day started too. I think that shows, your commitment to your services and whatnot. So have you always been, in terms of working out, are you mostly a morning workout person or afternoon workout person or like a midday workout person or just get it in whenever?
It always used to be in the morning. And I usually, now I have these same clients, and I've had these same clients now for my morning guys, Monday to Friday. And they are every Monday and Friday for the last, 14 months. So I always used to be a morning workout guy, go and get my workout done right away. That was my favorite time to do it. It's when I'm fresh. I love working out fasted. I can do cardio fasted. I can do weights fasted. I just feel if I have food in the body, I feel terrible. So I just make sure that I'm fasted and I'm good to go. And that was my thing. But now, because I have a lot more clients, I am finding myself working out in the afternoon, getting it in when I can. And kind of my mornings on the weekend is when I usually can get back to get a morning workout in. But so I kind of just go with where I can get it in, and that's I just get it done when I can get it done.
So Shea, with your business, with the coaching service, you're running a business there, and that takes a lot of different skills. There's a lot of things that go into that. There's a lot behind the scenes that, for people that aren't business owners or small business owners aren't aware of. And so what kinds of business things have you been learning as you've been running your coaching service?
Oh, man. This came up the other day. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and she's also running a business. And it was just this thing of like, it was like a question she asked, like, do you ever notice that you are every single day being pushed outside your comfort zone in trying to figure out how to become your best version of like your best version of yourself, or like the closest you can be to Alex Hormozy? I'm like, yeah, I feel like every single day I'm trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing. And it's just like something will come up and it will be a conversation or a question from a prospective client that, and I have a document I have of like all the questions I've ever gotten, that when I'm jumping on a sales call, I'm feeling really confident. And then you get something that's like an absolute curveball, and you're like, I don't know how to answer this in the moment. And I feel like the sale might hinge on that. And you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do with myself? And so it's little things like that, or like marketing. Like, how do you, when I first started, like someone would be like, what's your sales funnel? And I was like, I come from a corporate side. So like a corporate background of corporate sales. So it's like, oh, my sales funnel is like this Salesforce CRM. It does all the work for me type thing. So I don't know what you're talking about. So it was like building a sales funnel or building an email automation. And when you come from a corporate world, at least myself, all the companies I've worked for had a marketing team. They had, a BDR drumming up sales for you. They have an email campaign that marketing runs. They do all the work. They send the emails out using your email and all this other stuff. And you never see any of this stuff that actually comes down to keeping track of your business. And then the other side being accounting, taxes, and doing taxes for a company and saving receipts and like, oh, I could write that off. Oh, maybe I can't write that off. And all this stuff that when you don't have a business day to day, not in it, you don't see how much work it actually is to run a business from the side of actually like running the business. The coaching is a totally other entity within the business. That's the genius side of like doing the thing that you actually love, but that's only like 5%. 95% of it is doing all this other stuff. And I have some systems and some people in place that kind of help in certain areas, but it's still like, I'd say more often than not, my time is spent managing a business as opposed to the number of hours I get to spend one-on-one with clients, which is what I love doing. But it's the biggest thing in any entrepreneur is how do you spend less time doing the crap you don't want to do, and how do you get to spend majority of your time doing the things that light you up, I think. So
yeah, there's no easy answer to that. And I guess that just comes with learning and growing and getting more efficient, and that's probably a process that's several years, not just one that's going to be 2 weeks type of process. But the act of doing it is, I think, what it is pivoting into it and be like, you know what, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to go for this. And that pivot, and I think you made the pivot during the pandemic or so in 2020. Was that pivot hard for you to do, being like, okay, I'm going to be self-reliant here, I'm going to run my own business? Was that daunting at all, or are you just like, I'm going for it?
It was terrifying. Yeah, it was absolutely terrifying. Like I had some, finances that I could rely on, and I had a bit of stuff, but it was, it was like, let's throw this at the wall and see if that sticks. So as I mentioned to you, I started as just a performance coach, just doing from like a functional training, nutrition, CrossFit-y kind of background of essentially like gym training and working that angle and doing that for a bit. And then how do I add in the performance breathing, and how do I mix that in with those clients? And then a lot of those clients didn't want to try the breathing thing because breathing's a little woo-woo for them. So it was like, okay, well, let's pivot into that. So try and find some clients that are into just the breath work. So now we're doing just breath work, and now, not doing any nutrition or training stuff. And then it's how do you incorporate all of those together and create that business and do that for a bit. And just you're throwing different things at the wall and seeing what sticks and seeing what is resonating within the client base. And it was terrifying. I mean, I was doing the whole thing also not in my home country. So it added an extra element of I don't want to say scariness. Like it was daunting, but it was also thrilling at the same time. Like every day I love what I do. So is it scary? I guess in some ways, stepping out on your own and doing everything where your neck is on the line as opposed to your employer's neck is definitely going to be daunting, but it's also going to be the most rewarding thing you do. And so, doing that is that's the whole reason why I continue to do it is how can I be in service of others? Because, helping a business leader or a high performer get and then stay sober while also improving all the other areas of their life. That stuff lights me up. I love seeing that. I love hearing people when they're like, hey man, just past 60 days sober. I'm like 90 days sober. And like, I just feel so good. I'm sleeping so well. I've gained this much weight. Like I have one guy that's a ultra marathoner. He's sober and he just crushed like 100-miler and was like, yeah, I like crushed it. I thought I was going to do like 28, 29 hours. It took me like 25. I'm like, holy Jesus.
Wow.
Like you are crushing it. Like, you might not be Courtney DeWalter, but not many people are. So
yeah, she's something else. I went and watched her for a smidgen of time at the start line of Hard Rock 100
cool.
2 weeks ago or so, 3 weeks ago. I had a buddy that was running the race, and he asked me to pace him during it. And so just being around that whole community was something just really cool to observe and whatnot. And just seeing, I mean, she is just a beyond elite athlete. What she has done this year and what she continues to do this year, it's shattering everything. I mean, I think she's the best runner to ever go through ultra running. Killing was amazing, but I think she's something else. Yeah. And, you know, doing the Western States thing this year, she set the record there. She set the course record at Hard Rock. She's moving on to UTMB. She might get a course record there. It's just like, oh my gosh, all in one summer. Like she's extremely special.
She is doing incredible things. I was doing 50K in the worst heat and terrible blisters and all kinds of hell. And meanwhile, she's out there crushing. And it took me 9 hours and 51 minutes to do a really high elevation, like up and down elevation gain 50. Meanwhile, she took an extra 5 hours to do another 110 kilometers.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what are we? We're not even, you know, it's like chess and checkers. It's not even the same sport.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really impressive. My wife loves following her. I love following her. She's definitely something fantastic. Yeah. Okay, well, hey, wrapping up the conversation. You know, we were hearing about running your business and whatnot. Let's turn to the listening audience, and for anyone that's interested out there to get your coaching services and whatnot, what are the first steps they should take to get in contact with you?
Yeah, so the two places I'd recommend going to is on either of my social media accounts. It's Shea.Fairbanks on Instagram or on TikTok. And on both of them, there is the link in my bio has a form, an application form. Apply through the application form. That's the best way to get in touch with me. If you're unsure of kind of where you're at, shoot me a DM as well. I'm happy to jump in, happy to chat anytime. So
cool. That's great that you offer the latter. Well, Shea, it's been a wonderful conversation. I really appreciate you coming on to Old Bodies Outside, talking about the great that you're trying to do for the world. I love that it lights you up. I love that you have a lot of gratification for helping people. I love that you started a business that is designed to help people. Like that is at the heart of it. And that's all really, really cool. So thanks for coming on here and delivering great content.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the opportunity, Brian.
All right. You're welcome. Okay. I'm going to throw on the outro music.